All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Get a Grip, and today we have a very special guest, Saul Viayra. Saul, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You sound so formal. We're like besties. We talk every day. I'm like, yes, thank you. Here, welcome to my official podcast. So for those of you guys who have ever seen anything on my Instagram for like ever, you probably have seen Saul. Saul is a man of many talents, Star Wars aficionado, black belt in Jiu Jitsu, whose #1 competitor won his debut in what, like 40 seconds or something?
40 seconds, yeah.
40 seconds. I set a record, actually, who's #1. But he's also been my full-time, like, main coach since, like, blue, purple belt. Technically speaking, he's run all of my camps. We always call him, like, Juan Danaher, actually. That's, like, the inside joke on the team. He's very obsessed with jiu-jitsu, way more than I am. He has, like, all the fanatics, history, library you could ever desire. But he's also a business owner, a school manager, a teacher for many years. Oh, my gosh, a lot of things. So I really was excited to have him on the podcast today because I feel like I'm going to Get a Grip. We talk about like what it took to get you to where you are at a point where you're, you know, successful, happy, expanded, loving what you're doing, chasing your dreams, all of that good stuff, and kind of some of even the darkness that leads to that. So I would love to start with the intro question of what does it mean to you, or what does it feel like to you to have a grip on your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, thank you for that intro, by the way.
I rattled off a lot there really quickly, right?
I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
I
guess I am pretty awesome.
I probably missed some things, but I feel like I got a lot, yeah.
No, that was great. To answer your question, I think for me, one of the biggest things is trying to just be my best, most authentic self. Mm-hmm. And generally, I like to do that in like 3 categories. Like for me is kind of living with purpose is kind of the first one. The second one is living in integrity for sure. And then the third one is, you know, my relationships and making sure that my relationships are both constructive and, you know, non-toxic, I guess.
That's a low bar. Non-toxic. Well, constructive is good.
Yeah.
Would you say, okay, so you said purpose, integrity, and relationships. And would you say your relationships feed back into like being a person of integrity and being a person of purpose, in the sense of like having a hard time defining what a good, you know, like not just non-toxic, right? Would that be a way to define it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's been a lot of people in my life who I've had to cut ties with because it was super, you know, just toxic. And I'm not just talking about like romantic relationships, but I'm mainly talking about like friends and stuff like that who family, maybe, you know, sometimes you kind of family too. Family's a big one, actually. I have a big, crazy family, but yeah, so I think for me, like one of the biggest things is making sure that I feel like the relationship is elevating me to the person that I want to be versus it bringing me down. And there's just, you know, unfortunately some people that happens with, you know, and it's not because they're evil or bad or anything like that, but it's because, you know, it just wasn't compatible. You know what I'm saying?
And I think too, when you're on a journey to become your most expansive, however you define success, and we're talking about, you know, like having a grip on your life, like feeling, you know, you're balanced to where you want to be, moving where you want to go. There are a lot of people when you're on that journey that a lot of people can come with you, but sometimes people fall off like along the way just because they're not really aligned with the life that you're stepping into for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel kind of like a snake sometimes in that way. You know what I'm saying? Where like
shedding,
like shedding. You know,
I thought you meant like you're being a snake. I was like, you're gonna drop some secrets. Okay.
No, like I'm shedding, and sometimes, you know, you need a new skin in order for you to, you know, become the next person, you know, and I think that there's been people that in my life who, you know, were absolutely amazing, but it just wasn't aligning with what I foresaw for myself, you know, and so I think that sometimes with those types of relationships, I think that it's important to, you know, be able to be just constantly self-reflective too, you know, and it's like, well, is this relationship really serving me, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. So I'm going to go back later to the purpose question because I love that you started with that. But before I go into that, it actually sparked something like for those people who don't know that are listening, you've been training jiu-jitsu for how many years?
13 years
13
now.
years? Oh my gosh, we're getting old.
Yeah.
13 years, you're 30, right? You're turning 31 this year, so just brand new to the Masters division.
Not yet.
Not quite. It hasn't done it yet, but could. Yeah. Anyway, so 13 years, and you just had your first Who's Number One debut and massive win, and you've competed a lot over the years and done well, but you've never had like the black belt adult world title, or like you've medaled like at American Nationals at adult and Nogi Pans and things like this, and you've won some ADCC Opens as well. But I would definitely say that Who's Number One was like the biggest moment of your career. Yeah. How has it been to be on that journey and have it take 13 years to get to that point? And the reason I'm asking that question is because, you know, there are a lot of people, and there's so many topics we get into this with people who train jiu-jitsu that want to make their jiu-jitsu their career, or maybe they're not necessarily going to rely on jiu-jitsu to support them financially, but they still want to, or like in a competitive sense, but they still want to excel to the best of their ability in competition, and that's a part of them chasing their own personal excellence. So what's that journey been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely a journey of a lot of ups and downs, especially when I was at the colored belts, you know, like I think that I was a blue belt when I ended up pursuing jiu-jitsu full time. Mm-hmm. That was actually 10 years ago. You know, mm-hmm. I ended up quitting school and quit
you were in film school at the time, right? With 3 years in. I
was in film school. Yeah. I was also studying music. And that honestly, for like the longest time, I thought that was going to be what I was going to be doing. You know, mm-hmm. like I thought I was going to be a musician, and I thought that I was going to do that whole thing. You know, I've always had like I've always wanted to be like I've always wanted to be really artistic in that way, you know. So it's actually
you had
really
a CD, by the way. There was some music that was produced. Okay.
I do. Yeah. It's not on Apple or anything like that. But this was a long time ago. This was before streaming, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought that I was going to be doing that my whole life, and then it's actually really funny that like I'm looking back, you know, 15-year-old Saul would have been like, "Wait, you're like a athlete now?" Like that's so crazy, you know. So I never grew up watching or doing any sports. I was not an athletic kid. I was a very artsy kid. Mm-hmm. I was actually kind of reflecting back the other day where my first love was photography, actually. Like I remember having like a little Kodak camera, you know, going to school field trips and stuff like that, and like and like taking pictures and stuff like that. And my dad was really into photography too. He is into photography. And then I got into music, and then I just kind of went that route. And when I was like 9 years old, you know, so for me to sit here in terms of like, you know, when I was at 17, and then deciding at 20 to then pursue jiu-jitsu full time, you know, that was like my parents were like, "Wait, what's going on?" You know. But the journey, to answer your question though, like the journey has been really interesting, because I thought that once I quit school and once I did everything and I just pursued jiu-jitsu full time, that I was immediately going to start winning everything.
Right.
And I didn't win a single tournament, and I'm not talking about just like Worlds or IBJJ like I'm talking about any tournament that I entered at the blue belt level. I just didn't win. I got like a lot of third place medals. I have like a bunch of those stacked.
Buckets of bronzes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. And that was pretty much my colored belt career. But but as a blue belt, I just never really, you know, for whatever reason, just didn't do it. And then when I got to my purple belt, my performances started getting worse, actually. No. You know, like I was like losing in really bad and getting submitted left and right. And I was just like, what's going on? And then finally a year in of me like pursuing this full time, you know, I was obviously that there was a lot of self-doubt, and I was like, well, is this actually for me? You know, did I start too late? Right? Like you start to have all these, because there's guys that you're competing against that have been doing it since they were like 3 years old, you know? And I was like, well, maybe I started this too late. Maybe it's not going to happen for me, you know? And I remember thinking that, and I was actually, I was in a very dark place, but I remember being at this competition training back in the day, led by Professor Hamlo Bahal. And
I know, oh my God, we used to drive up to Northridge, the 3-hour drives to LA. We put in some hours and some miles, but those were some good days though.
I mean, those were, I mean, the comp training was always super tough, super amazing, you know, and obviously Hamlo is just an amazing competitor himself and stuff like that. And I remember like, I was literally thinking, because I had already signed up for a competition. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this competition, and I'll probably just stop competing. Like, I think I'm pretty much done.
What belt were you then?
I was a purple belt.
Okay.
And I was probably about a year or two into pursuing jiu-jitsu full time, and then I was like, you know what, this is probably not gonna happen for me. And so I remember he gave this insane speech. Like, I don't know what propelled him to do it or say it or anything like that, but he was talking about, he's like, every black belt world champion is just someone who just stayed consistent and persistent, and I remember like those words just like stuck with me, and I was just like, okay, like, I don't need to be a world champion right now, and honestly, like, it might never happen, and for me, it's more so the journey of pursuing excellence, right? And I think that has always been the motivating factor for me, instead of actually receiving that gold medal, And going back to the story, though, that weekend I was competing, and that was the first time I won something, Wow. Yeah, so it was my first gold medal at the purple belt division. Yeah, I mean, it was some like local tournament or whatever, but it was like a completely different performance, That's
huge. I mean, a lot of people that compete never get a gold medal. Like, it's not something, and I think a lot of it comes down to mindset too, and we could talk about mindset all day, but there's a point in the tournament where the self-doubt starts to creep in, and they're just not able to get through to the finals. They're not able to win the finals. The pressure feels like too much. But that's so incredible that, because your skills didn't change that much in a week, right?
No, absolutely not.
So it must have been something in your energy and your heart and your mind that really pushed you into being able to come out on top that weekend.
Well, I remember feeling like, you know what, like, the pressure's off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what I felt with it. I was like, you know what, I don't need to win, because that was kind of like my thought the entire time through, right? I was like, oh, I have to win because I have to prove specifically to like my parents and just the people around me, right? Like, I have to prove that I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And when I kind of let that pressure go, I had that great performance, And then obviously that comes with different pressures, right? It's like, okay, now I won one turn. Okay, now I got to win the next one, And so but the more I just kind of evolved and the more pressure I put on myself, I realized my performances were just not getting as good, And honestly, it took me a long time since that won my first gold medal performance, right? Like, it took even years after that to be able to have consistent performances. So like, fast forward to who's number one, it was very rare for me to feel like, back when I was in the colored belts, I never even wanted to invite my parents or anybody, like my girlfriend or whatever, to tournaments, because I was just so terrified of what they would think, right? Like students and stuff like that.
That's hard when you're teaching full time too. Just for anyone out there who is teaching, that's something so many people go through. And I remember you and I used to talk about that a lot, because we were teaching a lot together during those years, like purple, brown, and early black belt too. And we would go to compete, and I remember us reminding each other, like, dude, the students are gonna think you are awesome no matter what happens. Like, they care about how you fight, they care about how you show up for them. Like, they're here to support you. Like, if you don't win the worlds, like, the students still love you. It's okay. But that's something that a lot of people go through. It's tough.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. And I think that for me, it was just one of those things where it was wild, because at Who's Number One, I think I sold like 40 tickets or something like that.
I think more.
So I think
you made up a big section of that.
Yeah, which was absolutely insane, because like, I mean, even a couple years ago, I'd have been like terrified, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that I had so many people there, and honestly, I felt the energy, and I felt how amazing the energy was. And I think that really helped with having that performance. But obviously, but honestly, like the past couple of performances that I've had, like the performance I had before that, I won a couple ADCC Opens and stuff like that. And so for me, it was just kind of, there was proof in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the Who's Number One was kind of a culmination of the last 13 years, of me trying to compete and losing and stuff like that, and then winning some and having inconsistent performances, to now where it's just, I feel like I'm just having consistent performances now, which win or lose, like I'm not winning everything, but it's like win or lose, I feel like my performances are staying consistent.
Oh, that's so good. One of the things I was thinking about too while you were talking about coaching and and having students is a lot of times when people are competing in jiu-jitsu, it's seen as the pinnacle of jiu-jitsu performance to be able to make money specifically off of competing and just to do that. And the thing to me that's so ridiculous about that is that I wouldn't even say that's 1%. I haven't done the math. Okay, to be fair, I wouldn't even say that's 1% that they make their income off of doing competitions specifically, because then you have to look at, most of them are teaching seminars, they're teaching classes, they're doing, you know, instructionals, but they're also doing brand deals, there's sponsorships, right? There's so many other things. So you could probably put sponsorships in the buckets of making money due to competing, but honestly not really, because the reason you're getting sponsored is, and now these days, it wasn't this way before, but a lot of it is due to your social media presence, right? So that's a different skill in itself, marketing yourself. So in a world of jiu-jitsu where people are like, oh, the ideal thing is to be, you know, an athlete who just makes, you know, gets paid and does it, and it, which is, again, even if you're making like $10,000 for a fight, which I will have you know is not most people. No. Yeah. It is very few people that are having that happen. Even if you're doing that, how many times a year are you fighting? Okay, so you fought, even let's go on the generous side, you fought every other month and made $10,000 and made $60,000 before taxes, and especially in California. Okay, what kind of life are you having? So just to put it in perspective, right? And again, that's not many people. So that's very, very few people. And then if you get injured, you can't fight, all that. Okay, so that's like the pinnacle. We put this on a pedestal in jiu-jitsu. And you are somebody who, you know, left school. You had to tell your parents, like, hey, I'm not going to school anymore. And they were like, dude, you're 3 years in. And you're like, no, I'm going to teach kids class. I'm going to compete. And they were like, you're a blue belt. What? I know your parents are very supportive, but in this grand scheme of things,
I mean, there was a lot of that, though.
Yeah, it's like shocking, right? They're like, okay. Yeah. And so with all that to be said, your career has been one of, again, pursuing excellence in many areas, and not only teaching, but also managing. And then you became a school owner. How many years ago now?
Probably 2-3 years.
Maybe two, two. Yeah. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like why you see that as a pro for yourself versus a con of like, oh, I had to do these things to support my career because I couldn't make $10,000 in a fight, or what has it been like for you? Because it was reminding me of the purpose question of earlier.
I was literally gonna say that.
Oh, perfect. We're on the same wavelength, because I was thinking like, you know, if your purpose is not to compete and win, or like to win gold medals and to cash checks, which everyone loves money and everyone loves gold medals, don't get me wrong, but
it's like what Gary Tonin says, cash chicks and championships.
Yeah, you know? There you go. The trifecta. How have you found your purpose along the way, since you couldn't place it in that? Like life kind of forced you to develop in a bigger way. So what has that been like?
Honestly, like that, it's given me all the purpose in the world, you know, like I have way more satisfaction helping people and being able to get them to pursue their dreams or live their dream, you know, whether it's their dream is to be a competitor, whether their dream is to be a coach, whether it's their dream to, you know, teach kids classes or whatever, right?
Because you manage a lot of staff. If people don't know, like we have the 4 schools that we work on together, and all the staff through those 4 schools, like you're working with all those people constantly every day.
No, I mean, I think for me, like the biggest thing was like, I never feel now that I have to compete, you know? And I think that has actually helped me a lot with having a lot of consistent performances, because there was this kind of, especially when I got like my black belt, for example, there was all this pressure. I was like, oh man, I got to win all these tournaments because I got to, you know, I have to get enough points for worlds, and I have to do that whole thing and grind and travel to this place and the other place. And then I was like, actually, like doing that, like COVID was probably like the best thing that ever happened to me, you know what I'm saying? Because it forced me to stay a little grounded, and I had just gotten my black belt, you know, and it forced me to be a little bit more grounded. And then just really just recalibrate and really focus on, okay, well, why am I even doing this? You know, and I think that figuring out your why is such a big thing. And my why is just being able to help other people pursue excellence. You know what I'm saying? And
it's really like the definition of a coach. You're really a coach in every sense of the word. It's just you do it in different categories, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, whether it's with jiu-jitsu or, I mean, I think I go above and beyond for a lot of people, especially people that are really close to me, you know.
For sure.
But even people who maybe aren't, you know, just like a student, a white belt student that comes into the school, you know, it's like, okay, I want to make sure that person is fulfilling their dream, whether it's, you know, to get exercise or, you know, lose weight or, you know, be a competitor or whatever the case might be. And so for me, I guess it's an interesting story because I used to think competition competition really is selfish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Competition's
like
so
you have to
selfish.
be,
yeah.
You know?
I mean, and it's in the nature of it. You have to be. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that while it's awesome to be able to achieve something for yourself like that, you know, like obviously winning the gold medal and having that moment and stuff like that, like all that is really awesome, but your life doesn't change after you win something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know that, right?
Especially in jiu-jitsu. Like, I understand that there's a big difference, but, you know, like with the UFC or the NFL where there's a lot of eyeballs because now you're walking around the world and things are different for you. But I remember one of the most impactful things, and I know you and I have talked about it before. You may have even showed it to me, but it was the GSP story about when he was... I might have actually put this on the podcast before, I don't remember, but I remember being so impactful for me because it was like maybe the morning of a big UFC fight and he was walking around. Was he in New York maybe?
No, he was in Vegas.
In Vegas. And he was walking around and no one was coming up to him and he just like had this realization of, wow, like whether I win or lose tonight, my life is going to be the same tomorrow. Absolutely. Like no one actually gives a shit. Like no one really cares that much. Like they care for a minute, like the people you don't know in real life. But the people that are close to you, they feel the same about you. Like the good, real close people, they should anyway, feel the same about you the day of and the day after as they did the day before.
Well, if they're, obviously if they're real friends or whatever.
They're there for the right reasons, right?
Absolutely. You know, absolutely. And that was always a big fear of mine too, was like, I was constantly thinking, oh, if I lost, I'm going to lose students. And I don't think at any point after any tournament, whether I won or whether I lost, like if I lost, no one quit because of it, and if I won, no one signed up. No, you know what I'm saying? Because of it. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
And so it's like, oh, like this actually, in the long scheme of things, like this actually doesn't impact my overall quality of life and purpose, you know? And honestly, like I get way more nervous and way more just emotional when I see like you win or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Because like for me, it's like, oh, like I know I even if it was just like a little bit, right? Like I was able to help with you achieving that or something like that, you know? And I think that is, again, just going back to living in purpose, you know? And that is, you know, why I do the things that I do and stuff like that. So, and it's always, I mean, in the bad days too, right? Like when you're like waking up early and, you know, maybe you had a bad training or, you know, you had a bad class, the kids were going crazy or whatever. It's like, okay, actually this is going to be helping them in the long run and I'm serving my purpose right now. And so that's always something to kind of fall back on, you know?
That's so good. That's so good. I was thinking about what you were saying too with like people won't sign up or quit based on your results. And I think, you know, there are the exceptions where you have big superstars with gyms and people come or go based on, but the one thing I wanted to say about that is that there are many, and obviously I won't like throw anyone under the bus, but there are quite a few people that have great titles and they have schools, and the schools are not successful.
Exactly.
And it's not always...
Or they had to close the school or whatever.
Oh my God, yeah. And it's not always because of business practices. Of course, that's a big part of it. It's a whole other thing. Like business in the jiu-jitsu industry is not... there's a lot to that. A lot of it is like a little janky. Or just people are uneducated, right? And they don't have good mentorship. But a lot of it comes down to care also. Because like their purpose is so driven by their own personal needs only, and they're not really showing care to the other people around them, and it shows in their schools. So even if they do win all the titles, it's like, and there's plenty of people who are mid-level competitors, like just, you know, generally speaking, rankings wise, they're just kind of like doing their thing, and they have massive schools because they develop these other things that give back to other people. So
well, I mean, there's some people that don't even compete. You know, like they've never, maybe they've never competed ever, and they have, you know, really high level successful schools, because the majority of people that are coming to do jiu-jitsu don't even know the sport. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very rare for them to come in knowing, oh, Kendall trains here. Like, I've never heard that ever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I remember when we first opened in the place 5 years ago, before we made this big move, there were a handful of people that came over the years because, like, oh, they followed on Instagram or this or that. But to be honest, like, most of those people, they didn't even stay because they came for the wrong reasons. And I'm not saying it's bad if you go somewhere where you want it, but that person, that one human, whether it's me or whoever, they don't make up the experience of the school on their own. The experience of the school is set through the culture of, like, all the team members, all the students, what you allow, how you run classes, all these things, how you train people. And so, yeah, it's so much bigger. So,
I mean, even for me, like, I'm not on the mats as much anymore just because I'm managing and running around so many different schools and stuff like that. It actually happened yesterday. Really? I was covering for one of our professors, and I had this little girl, and she was crying because her professor, who's normally there, he was out that day. Her professor wasn't there, and she was like crying. And then one of the coaches was like, "Oh, but like Professor Saul is here," and she was like no, like, who? I don't care about this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's Professor Andy? You know? And so it was just such a funny story, so and it just kind of puts you in things, and it puts things into perspective. Like,
that's so good.
You know,
what really matters.
Yeah, exactly.
What really matters. You know, another thing I was thinking to ask you about as far as purpose goes, because I want to give a little bit of insight to the way you operate as a coach, because the way you are as a competitor and the way you are as a coach, they have similarities, but they're also so different. So I think it's interesting hearing you talk about your purpose and to help other people pursue excellence. And you're on your own journey with it. And that's one of the main things I think helps you to be an excellent coach, because you have your own experiences with pursuing excellence, not just on the competition mats, but in other areas as well, in business, relationships, whatever. And so when you go to coach people, there is really like a deep level of like resonance and understanding, because the person can feel that you are walking the walk. Like, you're not just talking to them. Like, you really know your shit. You're being honest. You're being truthful. And it goes back to your second thing of integrity, right? So you're being in integrity. So you as a coach, so you've been coaching me. We've been, working together like since end of blue, early purple belt, primarily because I was away at college and came back. You were training with my dad, and so there were many periods of time where I had big growth spurts as a direct result of the way that we were training together and the methods that you were, almost like experimenting with me, right? For sure. And you were a part of JJA in the very beginning and helped me develop that as well. And a lot of that came off of the way we were trained together and experimenting. So one of the things was, for people who have not necessarily had someone to guide them through it, when you are approaching a camp, whether it's with me or another athlete, what are some of the key, or yourself, what are some of the key things that you're looking at as a coach? And this could be going a lot of different ways, because we could talk about specific technical advancements. We could talk about emotional attunement. We could talk about setting the pace of the room, but then having to adjust for specific athletes based on their needs. And also something to talk about for sure is when dealing with injuries. So when you're coaching, and unfortunately, that was my story 2 times in a row. We had my lower back one and then my knee one, where I couldn't train the way that I wanted to train. And so we would come in and do very specific sorts of training, and I felt like my technical ability was like leaps and bounds improving improving leaps and bounds compared to times before where I had been training more in higher volume, but wasn't like making those technical adjustments. So what's your approach when you're working with athletes in different circumstances?
So I think the biggest thing is we harp a lot on weaknesses, and I feel like that is something, and that's something that I had to do for myself. For example, when I first got into the no-gi scene, I was getting leg locked left and right. Like, there's there's plenty of competition footage where I'm getting heel hooked left and right, And now you have one of the fastest leg locks on Who's Number One history. Well, there's that too, but I also feel like at a certain point, like, then I've been able to compete against some of the best leg lockers in the world, and I haven't been able to get, and they haven't leg locked me. Not saying that it's never going to happen or anything like that. Who hasn't leg locked you? I actually want to know. Who hasn't? Yeah, so, no, like who have you gone with that hasn't leg locked you? Because I don't know all the names. Who hasn't? Yeah. Well, you can tell us the one who have leg locked you too if you want. No, that's fine. We'll leave those out. No, I remember I had a match with the last ADCC trials. I had a match with Kieran Kachuk. I did lose the match. Yes, I remember his leg locks. That was a close one. His leg locks are sick, and I remember him getting into my legs, and And the great thing too is I have just such amazing training partners and stuff like that. And I have, a really good leg locker in my training room. And they were like, they were like, well, when I was in the match, I felt like, I was like, oh yeah, it's just like training with this guy that I train with every single day. You know what I'm saying? There was nothing crazy about it.
Right.
But obviously he's known for his amazing leg locks, you know what I'm saying? And for him not to be able to leg lock me, I was like, oh, like, okay, like what I'm doing is working, So, but the only reason why I got to that point, I was able to get to that point, was because I consistently trained it, and I consistently, like, I would find the best leg lock, whether they were colored belts or whether they were like whatever. I was like, okay, this guy has pretty good leg locks. Okay, let me see if I can get out of it.
You've trained your students to have specific strengths to help you train, which I think is another thing that coaches maybe don't do because it's really hard on the ego.
For sure.
Like, if I know, and this is one of the reasons that, like, I've loved training with you over the years, is like your passing, like, you were more of a guard player and then I was more of a top player, right? And I felt like your passing improved much faster than my guard playing improved, right? So then when I started playing more guard, I was like, oh man, I have to go with Saul because his passing is getting better and it's really gonna, like, show where my holes are, and that's really good for me. But it's hard to do that because it's like, oh, but if I just stay in the same pattern of where I know my strengths are, especially when you are an upper rank person, whether you're an instructor or not, but there's new people coming up, like, you don't want them, like the blue belt, to come and tap you out as a brown belt. Like that, if you can feel like humiliating if you're not in your right mind about it. Anyone can be that. Like, don't, like, one thing for listeners too, like, don't ever listen to the whole, like, holier than thou, like, oh, it's about no ego, bro. Like, you just have to be, like, more zen and you have to, like, get oh my God. I'm like, dude, we're human. Like, it's okay if you get your feelings hurt because you got tapped out. I don't like, that would be weird if I like getting smashed. I'm so sorry, but anyone who says they don't care, I'm not saying, though, you can't switch your mindset to be like, oh, I'm here to learn, and, like, absolutely do your mindset work. Okay. But don't let anyone shame you about it. Like, who wants to get fucked up? Like,
no, for sure.
It hurts your feelings.
Well, like, something that I train all my athletes to do is, like, it's not that there's no ego but it's okay. Like, it's not life or death, and I feel like my training room is an extreme. We have a really small team, that comes and trains, but I think that every single person in that room is extremely talented, and they are able to, like, I mean, I have
provide
these guys,
challenges.
Exactly. They all provide challenges, but at the same time, they're all like, they don't, like, I used to think, oh man, if this guy tapped me out or whatever, then I would suddenly, then they're going to think less of me and they're not going to think I'm a good coach or whatever, right? Because now this guy's tapping me out. But, like, I remember the biggest lesson that I have learned throughout the years is that training sessions are not meant for, like, just winning and losing, right? They're meant to consistently get better, and it kind of goes back to your why. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, why are we doing this comp training? Like, is it just to win rounds, right? Is it for me to smash all the colored belts?
There's no world title for tapping out all your purple belts.
Exactly.
I'm so sorry, but, like, no one's gonna clap for you for that. That's ridiculous.
And so for me, like, anytime I go into a session, it's something that I really harp on, especially when I talk to my athletes and stuff like that. It's like, of course, like, you don't want to get tapped left and right. You don't want to just be the guy who's, just getting tapped all the time.
Yeah,
you know
and,
what I'm
like,
saying?
you should want to try hard. Like, trying hard is cool. Like, you want to give a lot of effort, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's also, like, a learning curve as well. Like, there's also, like, this a bit, like, it's like, okay, well, hey, if you're not good at armbar defense, right? It's like, hey, why don't we put ourselves in that position, right, and see if we can get out? Okay, and start off with the white belt. Like, if the white belt's tapping out, I was like, okay, well, now we got to figure something out. You know what I'm saying? And then just progressively work that way. And so anytime we're in skill development, and I always kind of bring, especially when I'm getting ready for camps or I'm teaching a camp or I'm getting an athlete ready for something. I usually have things in two phases, right? As I have the skill phase and then the competition phase, right? And when we're in the skill phase, that's the time where we're just trying to learn. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're terrible at this, so I'm gonna put you in that position. That way you're forced to be to get better, right? And then we'll kind of dissect it, right? And that's a big thing that I always tell my athletes too, and just students in general, is, like, always ask questions. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if something's not making sense to you, something's not working out for you, like, ask questions. Like, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I never want to hide any information from anybody, you know, is what I'm saying? So for me, I'm always like an open book with that kind of stuff, you know. It's like, like I'll tell you exactly how to beat the one move that I hit on you or whatever, right? Like I'll tell you, you know. It's not that big of a deal because I know that
it's good for you.
I was just going to say like now that he has an answer to the move that I'm hitting, now it forces me to evolve. And so we're kind of playing this nice, you know, it's like the saying, what is it?
The rising tide lifts all ships.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And so I know if that person is genuinely getting better, then it's going to force me to get better and force me to evolve, you know? And that's, again, going back to, you know, cultivating great relationships. Like all of my athletes, I feel like I have a really great relationship with, and it's like there's no ego between us. I know that both of us are trying to make each other better, you know. And so when I win a competition, I know they feel like it's their victory, and when they win a competition, I'm over there like, you know, I don't do go crazy and cheer or whatever, but I'm always like extremely ecstatic for them. You know?
Man, that's one of the things I definitely feel. So for those who don't know listening, I used to live in Newport Beach, and I was primarily training at GB Newport Beach. And then when I moved to Palm Desert, it was really hard for me. It's 2.5 hours, right? So I don't really train here much anymore. Although I'm here for a few weeks, so it's nice. And I was training with everyone this morning. Yeah. And obviously I know the guys, but some of them I don't know super well. I'm not around them very often. And one of the things I always pick up on, whether it's at competitions or in the training room, is there's so much mutual respect. And what I love, though, is there isn't I think sometimes higher ranking students or teachers or coaches, they feel almost like they're going to lose the sense of power in the room if they give too much respect to the other students. And you could talk about the same thing, toxic relationship. We're not going to go there today. Okay. But they feel, and really that's because there's a sense of insecurity, right? Sure. But at the same time, what we do is a martial art. It is, there is a hierarchy, there is a system. And one of the things that I notice when I'm around your students, and I would also say that I really love this about all of our coaches. I feel like you have played a very, very big part, and this goes back to business development and management and school ownership, that you've played a big part in setting the example for that, of commanding respect. You still hold the space of the room. You're still, you know, running things. People still are following direction. You're not getting walked all over. You're not putting yourself underneath them. But there's a mutual respect where they don't feel like, oh man, Saul thinks he's above me. You know, it's like, oh, you're the black belt in the profession in that setting. And when we're here in the academy, like, you're coming here and for a reason, because I'm setting the tone. And there's a sense of respect, and not only because you can tap them out, right? That's a great,
I mean,
that's an important thing. Okay. It's great. But it's also, especially like, as a female professor, I mean, male professors in general, for sure, you probably will have students from time to time that you can't beat the shit out of. Yeah. And I'm
already having that right now. Like, there's some students I'm like, man, this guy's getting way too good. You know?
Yes. And the old school mentality is like, oh, I have to be able to, and I have to be able to smash everybody in order to command respect. And I don't want to negate that, because there is what we do as a martial art, so there is some of that to it. But if you're only relying on that, well, now you're operating out of brute force only. I'm not saying don't use some force, don't use some muscle, but you also, what you do, and what I'm really proud of our staff and the culture we've set, is it comes through a mutual respect. When people feel like you're actually showing up, you're leading by example, and you're doing what you think is best for them, then it's like, well, they want to follow your lead, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that they can feel, I hate using the word, but the authenticity, right? Like,
no, it's true. It was genuine. There's
there's like a genuine, like, I care a lot about you and you care a lot about me. And there's like, again, it's like any relationship, right? It's like there is that mutual respect. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like for me, that's always kind of been, I think, one of my biggest strengths, honestly, being able to really cultivate that and stuff like that. And obviously there's been a huge learning curve, and obviously throughout the years, you know, I was very young when I got into all this. So it's like, and I'm still young, I'm 30, right? So I'm sometimes talking to people that are like, you know, 40, 50 years old, you know, and trying to command respect from them, you know, but I feel like I do a good job.
Well. Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, I think you and I have talked about before is, and this applies in any arena, but particularly because you're talking about jiu-jitsu and your career being jiu-jitsu focused in many domains, is like anytime on the mats, there are people who can teach you so much about whatever they're excelling in, right? So you may be teaching a class and you're in charge doing your thing, but there's, you know, a real estate person and a doctor and a great mother and a great parent and like, or parent, mother, same thing. But anyway, like there's like this, you know, these excellent people. And so, yeah, I think you do a great job of like commanding respect, but also showing respect at the same time. And it really shows up in what you do. And not just only with the students, but with our staff and our team as well, is something that I've seen a lot. And also speaking from the perspective of like, if you take our business relationship and friendship out of it, just as a coach and a student relationship that we have, I feel the same. And I think this is an important thing that you, out of, you know, humility, may not like harp on for yourself. But one of the things that I think is important for listeners, especially if you're coaching in any capacity, is that you have a great ability to give your athletes a lot of autonomy and help them build their trust with themselves, which is something that not many people are given the space and opportunity to do, because they're with coaches who very much have the model of like, do this, do what I say, this is what's right, and if you don't do it this way, you're probably going to fail. You must do what I say. And so you give a lot of great direction, but you also ask a lot of questions, and so you have a lot of curiosity about your athletes. So I would show up and we'd say we're getting ready for ADCC whichever year, and it would start with questions, and you'd say, hey, here's my plan for today. And I would already kind of know, because we kind of prep for the week, right? You'd be like, hey, here's the plan for today. Here's the many rounds I'm thinking. Here's the skills. Is there anything else I should know about? Is there anything going on with you? And then we would have a collaborative discussion about it, and then we would go into the training. And then if at any point, like you felt something I was off, or I felt like something was off, we would communicate that and then adjust the training accordingly. And I think that comes from a big sense of trust, like, you know, I'm not just being a baby, like, and I really need to, but at the same time, that level of like your athletes wanting to show up for you and push hard for you comes from them trusting that you're not going to exploit that, because you respect where they're at, and there's that trust and that communication just goes so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, the biggest thing has been just asking questions, you know, and just being extremely curious, you know, because I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what's going on in your head. I don't know what's going on in your body, you know, like I'm not in your body. I'm not in your head, you know? And so I think that a big part of it is being able to, you know, ask the athlete, hey, like, you know, we are, and obviously, like, it's also about knowing your athlete too.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that there's some athletes that I have that are, you know, I know that you kind of need to save them from themselves a little bit. Like, I think you're kind of an athlete like that. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
I've gotten better over the years. Okay. I'm having some practice.
But that's the reason why you're so great, right? Like, that's the reason why you're so good. But then there's other athletes where, you know, you need to push them. You know, it's like, hey, actually, no, we're going to do another round. We're going to push you a little bit more here, you know, because that's exactly what they need, right? So it is about knowing your athlete. And honestly, like, for me, I've always dreamed of having like a huge team, you know, like there's some of these other teams that have just big competition teams and stuff like that. I'm always kind of a little envious about that, because it looks cool on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of energy.
But honestly, for me, I really like to work with specific athletes, you know, like there's like
more depth in the relationship.
Exactly. And you know, I see them day in, day out. I know exactly how they are now, you know. I've been working with a lot of them for years now. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, I know that, hey, we need to push a little bit here. Hey, we actually need to scale it back a little bit here, you know, and just constantly working like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that for me has been, you know, just the biggest reason why I feel like I can excel in being a good coach, you know?
Man, that's so good. One of the things, too, I was going to point out that kind of goes back to, like, loyalty, integrity, and your relationships. And this is something that I've noticed. Like, a lot of times when I have podcast guests on, I don't actually know them that well. So I don't have the privilege and opportunity of being like, oh, I know this about you, and I'm going to tell everyone this about you. But one of the things about you that I think aligns with all three of those things and can be said from the outside looking in, because I was thinking about the big teams, right? Yeah. Like, you and I have been on the same team since the very beginning, independently, like with our same teams, but also we've been on the same team together. Yeah. And I think one of the things that sticks out to me about like because on this podcast we talk about like, how do you have a grip on your life? How are you chasing your success? How are you expanding towards your best self? And how are you keeping yourself grounded as you're doing that? And one of your main qualities that goes along with integrity, but is loyalty. Like you are super, super loyal, not only just to the people around you, but to your purpose, your integrity, and your relationships. So they kind of all coincide. And that's one of the things like I used to hear people talk about bouncing from team to team, and people have to do what they have to do. And I understand like sure. Everyone's on a different journey, but that's one of the things where it's like, I think if you can get close to the people around you and work your ass off to make them better, and then they're trying to make you better. Of course, there are some things you have to leave. It's not the right fit, but that I think is truly how you go further faster, because that trust that you're talking about and the mutual respect and understanding in a training camp when emotions are high, stress is high, pressure is high, you're doing your mindset work, you're trying to sleep, you're still working full time, all these things. Like you cannot have that depth with somebody in just a couple months. It takes time. It takes time and experience, and like it takes the proof of having like that faith in people for a long time. You know they're going to show up for you. You know they're going to have your back. Like that kind of stuff, I think, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I think has been a big part of your journey and your success in many areas, because you have 13 years of jiu-jitsu, working and managing people, school ownerships, people, business is people, and people are crazy. Like people have problems, people have life crises, people have crazy relationships. Like we all have stuff. And so to be loyal in your community and like stay on your path for that long, I feel like is really like a big testament to who you are and where you have gotten and how successful you are now. Because it's like, I know that you're your most competitively successful, you're most financially successful, you have such strong relationships in your life. So if you're, fitness wise, spiritually, and you can speak more to that, but I know because I know you, that it's like, that's a big part of that story. Yeah. I mean, I think loyalty for me, it's not the same as integrity, but I feel like they kind of go hand in hand, you know? Because integrity too is like loyalty to yourself. So it doesn't mean you always stay with everyone forever. For sure. But
and I mean, like you said, there are sometimes people who need to bounce around, and that's just kind of what they need for themselves, But for me, I mean, the story of actually even just starting jiu-jitsu, like I remember because Gracie Baja Corona is like right off the freeway, so I would drive by it all the time, and for whatever reason, it just like I felt something in my gut, and just trusting my intuition of like, that's the school I need to be at, even though it was like 20 minutes away from my parents' house.
I know your dad was like, dude, I want to drive to the one that's closer.
Well, exactly.
You were 16, right? 15?
I was 17.
Okay.
I was 17 when I started. So I remember showing up and like your dad was the one teaching the class, and I was like, oh yeah, like this is it, and my dad was like, like, are you sure? Like there's one right next to the house.
It's more expensive and it's far.
No, exactly. And I was just like, no, like this is the one, And I've always kind of had these kind of like intuitions, like of like, no, this is what we're going to do, I'm kind of hard-headed that way. But like that was probably the best moment of my life,
changed everything.
It completely changed everything. And I remember when I quit. So, I mean, like we didn't have a huge competition team at the Corona location. There was a lot of like great people there and stuff like that. And
our schools are more for like your average like person
families.
Who loves jiu-jitsu and wants their kids, wants to train. We've never had competitively focused schools, and we've outsourced some by going to different GBs in different places to train with. But most of it was like we had to figure out how to grow it ourselves.
Absolutely. No, I mean, absolutely. And I think that I remember there was a period where I was like, oh, I'm going to switch to this other team because I want to,
I need to be with the pros.
Exactly. That was a big thing. I was like, oh yeah, I need to be with people that are, competitive and stuff like that.
Understandably.
Absolutely. And honestly, that would have been like the worst decision of my life. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that for myself, I needed to be where I was at. And honestly, I was getting what I needed from the team that I had. You know what I'm saying? And
it's a big level of personal responsibility. I think not that people don't need to leave and move around, but a lot of the time, I feel like if we took a deeper look at ourselves, and maybe if there's someone out there that's at their school that feels like they're not getting what they need, or maybe they're considering they're in that kind of a spot. It's not that you won't still leave and make a choice, because, like, I don't want to condemn people. There are definitely reasons. It definitely makes sense in many occasions. But if we're not first looking at ourselves, like personal responsibility, like, am I really making the absolute most? Am I looking for a shortcut? Am I trying to go, the short way around? Like, am I trying to skip something? Am I not utilizing really everything that I have? I'm not trying to do extra, get these two guys. Like, I know you and Jerry would, like, go in the morning super early before anyone had work, and you'd go to your extra drill. Like, if you're not doing all that stuff first, then the answer is probably not at another gym. Because let me tell you, the most successful people at those gyms are also doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, they may not talk about it, and some of them do. And they may not tell you, or it may not seem like that, because it's like, oh, well, they're with this person or that person. And it's like, yeah, but that's not why they are successful necessarily. Most of them would probably be successful no matter where they were, because it's them. Because they're doing it for themselves.
Well, I think a big part of, like, just all the, finding your purpose and stuff like that, it has to do a lot with, self-reflecting, and if you're not doing the work of self-reflecting, then it's kind of hard to even, it's really easy to do the blame game. It's like, oh, like, this school doesn't have a lot of competitors, and so that's why I'm not winning these tournaments. It's like, well, maybe it's because your mindset's not terrible. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I think that a lot of times, and of course, like, again, like, I don't want to condemn anyone for switching teams and stuff like that. Like, hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and obviously everyone has their own reasons.
I have really close friends that it was the best thing they ever did.
For sure.
It needs to happen sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, sometimes you're in a place where it's toxic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you're not doing that self-reflection first, right, then then you're just going to do the exact same thing, just with that team.
It's like relationships. Well, and also you're skipping the greatest opportunity to have personal development and to have growth, because it's like, even if you do change, why don't you do the work first and then go? And it really is like relationships, right? Like, I love that phrase, like, the lesson or the cycle will repeat until the lesson is learned. For sure. And it's like, you will repeat your cycles. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to ask you again, because typically at the end of the podcast, I re-ask guests what it means for them to have a grip on their life. And sometimes it's the exact same, but sometimes there's stuff that came up during the podcast that they're like, oh, also this. Yeah. So what does it mean for you to have a grip on your life?
Yeah, I think the same things, honestly, but I think that just to kind of dive deep in a little bit more is being able to, there's the three things that I named in the beginning, right? So it's having integrity, purpose, and having really strong relationships. And I think all those three things you can have if you do a lot of self-reflection, if you are in alignment with, all those three things. I feel like that's when you can really truly become your best, most authentic self. And it's a journey, and that's, for me, it's been a journey, and that's been something that I've been it's kind of been like my mantra, it's like, I'm always just trying to be my best, most authentic self. And there's some times where I self-reflect. I was like, am I being my best, most authentic self right now? And sometimes I have to have those conversations with myself. It's like, actually, no, are you living in integrity right now? Like, are you living in purpose right now? And obviously, like, I'm not perfect. And I think, but it kind of keeps me on track with things, And so I feel like for me, that has been throughout this whole life that I've had, these whole, like, 30 years. It's been something that I've just always kind of come back to one way or the other.
It's so good. Oh my gosh, I have so many more questions for you, so we're definitely gonna have to film again. I didn't even touch on Harry Potter or Star Wars or Marvel. Okay, this guy knows everything there is to know about the world of nerdy things. But
pop culture for sure, yeah.
Yeah. But I did want to say a huge thank you for coming on the podcast. I know we've been talking about doing it forever.
Yeah.
We finally got it to come together. But you've been such an influential person in my life, and really one of my favorite people in the world. I'm so grateful for you. Like, we've been through so much crazy stuff, ups and downs and everything in between together. Like, oh my gosh, for real. I like had like flashing while we were talking. I was like thinking about like the injury at ACC and like opening new schools and building fucking floors and oh my god, and managing people, firing people. Oh my gosh, it's been, and then being there for you for who's number one. Oh, and like how amazing that was. And yeah, we've been all over the map, and so I'm super grateful for you. I know this has brought so much value to everybody listening. And next time we come on, oh my gosh, you escaped my favorite question. My favorite question is the like deepest, darkest moment of your life that brought the most light. So we're going deep on that one next time.
All right, yeah, I'm excited because I do have a interesting story with that. But.
Oh, okay. It's gonna be Saul Unleashed.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the Unleashed episode.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, but thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. All right, where should people find you? Just Instagram or anywhere else?
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I can't do
now.
it. Yeah, I have an Instagram. I post a lot of I try to anyway. I'm trying to be a little bit more social media savvy, you know. But I do post a lot of like instructional type videos, you know, and I'm obviously hoping to do an instructional soon as well. So I've been reaching out. So
perfect. All right, well it's in the works, and we'll post it when it's live. All right, thanks, Saul.
Perfect. Thank you.